My name is Colton Hatch, and this is my personal security risk assessment. Terms and conditions and terms of service can be some of the most basic contracts between a user and a service provider. These contracts define the rules associated with the use of said services, and the risks and hazards associated with these online legal contracts consist almost entirely of the possible loss of rights due to lack of understanding. Studies have found that most users do not read the terms of service and that they miss important details due to skimming. By clicking the I agree button, the user gives up all rights specified in the contract. In my own experience, I have to admit that I too have been a part of this population. I have always believed these contracts to be useless in terms of the typical user, but after becoming aware of the existence of scandalous contracts, I plan to remediate my own risk by reading the terms of service before agreeing to anything. Like terms of service, EULA, or End User License Agreement, also referred to as a software license, is a legal contract between the user and service provider. EULA differs, however, in that the user agrees to pay for the use of the service additionally, rather than agreeing by clicking agree. The user is legally binded to this contract upon opening, downloading, or even just using the service. Also, like terms of service, EULA is controversial due to its ties with controlling users' rights. Oftentimes, the user is not prompted to read or even agree to the EULA, and this fact illustrates that these user-provider contracts aren't really a choice of agreement, but more of a rather a mandatory agreement. Just as all the controversy around this subject exists, all the reasons for it match. Because of the removal of choice and lack of judicial awareness behind these contracts, there is little anyone can do to remediate this problem. The most associated action I have found is simply not using the service or returning the service. Although I don't agree with the implementation of EULAs, I likely won't deny myself the use of a service just because of an automatic agreement that everyone has to agree to. Similar to understanding legal risks, it is important to be aware of risks that take a physical form. Much of what consists of our personal data and property resides in our home. So the risk associated with this lie in the possibility of a robbery where an intruder can obtain sensitive information. What they do with that information can either be beneficial to them, harmful to you, or both. From birth certificates to laptops, a home is filled with valuable items just waiting to be stolen. I don't personally have a lot of experience dealing with these dangers, but in discussing said topic online with fellow students, I discovered one student had a family that was robbed. They even had a home security system and were in the house during the robbery. However, if the person knows what they are doing, it can be difficult to catch them. This is why I've decided that securing the home before an intrusion happens is key to remediation. My current residence has 24-hour video surveillance, around-the-clock security guard, and mag-stripe keys, so I'm currently well protected, but in the future, to act against these intrusions, I plan to incorporate video surveillance, locks, and a home security system, as well as possibly insurance in the event that intrusion can't be avoided. Mobile devices are used interchangeably in business and consumer life. This poses a threat both to the user, whose data is stored on the device, as well as any company that allows its employees to access company servers or data from their device. The first half of protecting mobile devices is understanding that physical protection is just as important as online protection. So the physical risks associated with the devices we refer to as cell phones aren't plentiful, but they are serious. In the wrong hands, especially without a password, a cell phone is a gold mine for anyone trying to get a peek at one's personal life or private information. For more advanced intruders, information with capabilities of crippling whole companies is also a target. And although the solutions to this problem sound simple, with enough dedication, no device is completely safe. It is my understanding, based on a friend's experience, that the best way I can protect my own mobile device is by having a strong password kept known only to myself and having the device always in my possession or placed in a safe location away from the reach of others. As with mobile devices, desktops and laptops often contain highly sensitive information. Also, like mobile devices, physical protection must be implemented in addition to online security to avoid the loss, theft, or destruction of personal information. The risks present with mobile devices are similar to that of desktops and laptops. The lack of a strong password or having no password at all leaves computers very vulnerable to physical intrusions. Also, because these devices take on a physical embodiment, the attacker may even relocate the computer in order to better obtain information from the device. Of course, to solve the first half of the stated issue, one simply needs to ensure that a strong password is used and that the password is kept secret. As for the theft protection, metal cable locks are sold and can be used on desktops and laptops to lock the devices down to a single location. I currently have and have always had a strong password that only I know on all my personal computers. I am still yet to implement computer locks, however, but I would like to use them on my future devices. So the second half to protecting a mobile device is online security. Like I have said, most people have private information on their cell phone, and most of the time, these devices are also connected to a network. Unfortunately, it is also a common misconception that mobile devices are more secure than other, more stationary devices. This makes cell phones the perfect target for hackers. Anything with a connection to the internet or network poses potential threats to the owner's security, and some of the more obvious risks may include fake public Wi-Fi networks, phishing, malware, and with these, hackers can gain access to private information, leave devices infected, and possibly cause long-term damage. But less common but still present risks include exploitation of out-of-date software and fake application downloads. I find myself to be one of the many who use my cell phone in everything I do. I keep everything from login credentials to photos of me and everyone I associate with. This made me realize that I am at a huge risk. In order to remediate this issue, I've decided to always be aware and careful of my actions. Things I'm constantly on the lookout for are fake Wi-Fi networks, sketchy links, downloads outside of the official stores, and software updates. Additionally, I no longer save passwords to my device, and as an extra measure, I enable a VPN while on sites or applications that request personal information. Now, when someone references hacking, the first thing that comes to my mind is an image of some guy on a desktop or laptop mashing away trying to get into someone else's computer. This stereotype just happens to be all too real. Laptops and desktops contain all kind of sensitive personal information that hackers will do anything to obtain. And just like mobile devices, these devices are only viable when connected to the internet or a network. So because of the constant need to be connected to the internet, the risk of being hacked is always a possibility. Hackers will use methods such as exploiting out-of-date software, virus and malware injection, router exploitation, and many more processes in trying to gain access. People, companies, and government are hacked every day using these methods. Oftentimes, the only reason the hacker will succeed is because the lack of knowledge on the subject by most people. So, fortunately, I have been able to learn about these risks before rather than after an attack on myself. So, I have found that many people agree that even the most basic and free forms of protection are better than nothing. I don't have a lot of money to put towards expensive high-end software, so this is a relief. I currently employ an active anti-malware, antivirus software to protect against those attacks, and I also use a VPN while actively online. So in response to the other issues, I always check my software for updates. I do not open or download anything that I don't trust 100%, and I run my Wi-Fi network privately with encryption and a password. So, although much of what is the internet consists of social media sites where people share everything with each other, there's still always going to be a time and a place that anonymity is essential. Companies, governments, and personal users all conduct business online. And when it's not business or social media, there are countless other places to go and enter private information. So the world is so interconnected by internet, it seems impossible to imagine our society running any different. However, with enhanced connection comes greater threats. So hackers are aware of the multitude of private info being passed around and tireless at finding ways, and they're tireless at finding ways to obtain it. Some examples of threats that hackers exploit include online billing and social networking. If one openly uses these services without ensuring anonymity, then the chances of being exploited are much higher. So luckily for all of those totally unaware people out there, service providers are often aware of and take action against identity sharing and theft. So billing services like PayPal and online markets like eBay, they do not reveal the identity of the user during transactions. Uh, anonymous social and networking sites also allow a person to stay social online without revealing their identity. As for myself, I do not feel any need to be totally anonymous online. However, I still plan to use anonymous billing transaction sites, as well as keeping my current social media set to be viewed by friends and family only. So the implementation of passwords has supported the backbone of individualized computer use for as long as I can remember. Every day I find myself logging in and out of countless different sites using the same passwords and same usernames, just in different orders and different places. So in a world where efficiency is key to success, however, this daily routine was not working. So this is where password managers come in. By using one of the several types of managers, a person can store login credentials associated with specific sites and even have new complex passwords generated for you. The risks that led to the need for password managers fall partly under many users' inability to remember the login credentials they set in the first place. The more pressing issue falls under the lack of complexity and variance between the different login credentials. As a result, millions of user accounts are still being reported to use the password or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or even QWERTY as the password. So many different password managers are available with many different functions. Any one of these will work to improve users' overall security. In my own research, I found the password manager LastPass to work perfect for my work style. In switching to this password manager, I was able to set much more complex passwords and a much larger variety. So now none of my accounts share the same username and password, and none of my passwords can be guessed based on who I am. They're totally random. Ultimately, this takes the social engineering aspect out of a hacker's ability to obtain the personal information. Like the implementation of password managers, encryption has been adopted and used by many in an attempt to protect their personal information. So encryption works in several different ways, but fundamentally it converts information to a code to prevent unauthorized eyes from seeing what is actually there. So additionally, encryption creates a decryption key that can be set and used by those with authorization. The issues that caused the need for encryption is just as what I had expected prior to my research. Hackers want to obtain your information, and with enough dedication and time, nothing can stop them. So we as a society operate by creating, sending, and sharing information with other people. So the risk of an unauthorized user obtaining the data sent over the internet is and has always been very possible. So as a final remediation, as hackers have become more advanced in their methods, the solution has ceased from being to keep files out of those hands at all costs, and has instead moved to be more of removing the ability to read the files once they're obtained, unless the person who obtains them has the authorization, decryption key. So although encryption gives the good guy an upper hand, not all encryptions are built equally, and this is why I've opted for using paid VPN services for more advanced securing options and encryption.